Hello, my name is Davey, and I'm gonna be guiding you through a series of videos where we're gonna talk about how you can use our API for Collaborate. Um, and then we're gonna tackle some specific use cases that we've seen a couple of times. So before we do that, I want to dig in some specific concepts that usually help on whenever you're gonna start using this API. So please just bear with me on these concepts. Just stay here, try to take notes if you can. Um, and yeah, let's get in. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the basic concepts. So I decided to put it like in three different groups. So the first one will be the where, which is in purple. The second one would be the who, which is like this blue, and the third one is just related to optional attributes or characteristics. So, for example, whenever you create a new session, you're gonna see something like this, whether it's usbbcollab.com or it's gonna be ca.bbcollab.com or any other URL. It's gonna look the same. Now, whenever you request for the first time, so when you want to request, hey, I want to have access to Collaborate, but I don't want to test in production, which is the best practice. You would like to write us an email to developers at blabber.com, so we can help you out, giving you some test environment credentials. But these test environment credentials, which is something called check preview, does not have a scheduler. You will not have a GUI to see any session. And there's no way for me to provide you that. The first thing you're gonna see is that you're gonna be uh, kind of like blind on the GUI side. It's for the best. Like you're gonna get used to it. Like it's gonna be uh, better. So the first thing that you see whenever you want to start creating like a session schedule or anything like or something like that is gonna look like this. So this is just like the basic thing. Now, on these basic concepts, the first thing that I wanted to see is related to sessions and instances. So, um, these are two different concepts. The first one, the session, which is the meeting room, is where let's just, and this is the way that I think is the easiest way to be understood. So, for example, whenever let's say you have a class, you're an instructor, and you have three different groups. The first one is at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. The second one is from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And the third one is from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Now, you're gonna create a session room, and within that session room, you can have three different instances. That instance it gets created whenever the first person joins, and it is terminated, not deleted, but it's like terminated, finished, whenever the last person leaves. It has a 5 minute of tolerance. Whenever someone like drops and just joins back, it's gonna be the same instance. But if that time passes by, then it's gonna generate a new instance. So for example, let's just say that nobody but just the people from the group joins the course, this session at 8 a.m. That instance gets created at 8 a.m. So a session can have multiple instances. Yep, not at the same time, just one at that specific time. And then the last person leaves at 9 a.m. and then the instance gets terminated. Then you have the first person to join the meeting, which will be the instructor at I don't know 12:55 a.m. And then at that moment the instance for 1 p.m. well which was created at 12:55 got created, and so on and so on and so on. So the session is just one, but each this session has three instances in this example. Sometimes you might want to create a session and only have one instance on that session, which is completely fine. But it is possible to have different instances within a same session. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing would be that whenever we want to relate this instance the session to something, there's an attribute called context. So context here is the way we group things by, and it's just a way to organize stuff. So, for example, you want to organize them by groups, no, by courses. So this course is Python 101, and the context will be that course, Python 101, and the code for that course is, I don't know, py 101. That will be the code for that course. So it is possible to relate them within a session, and it is possible for a session to be part of that context. So if you want to query how which sessions this context has, you can do you can do that easily using the API. So um, please keep in mind that the context is optional. It is not mandatory at all. So yeah, that'll be like the whole way of how we organize things. Whenever this is connected to an LMS, like for example Blackboard Learn, you're gonna find that the course ID will be the one that is, or the course UID, which is sometimes it just varies. It just depends on how the integration goes. But sometimes it's just the course ID or the course UID, which I think is usually the course UID, and that's the way it's gonna be related. You can find it easily using the Learn integration, which is out of scope for this video, but you can find that relation there. Okay, it is easy to find. Now, and that where still talking about those basic concepts, you're gonna see that we have a session that has an instance, and that instance has a recording. A recording is completely optional, and one instance can have multiple recordings. Why? Let's just say, for example, that the instance from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. The instructor had a problem and had to stop the recording at a specific moment. So he stopped the recording at 8:30 and then resumed it at 8:36 a.m. So there's gonna be two recordings for that specific instance, and then there can be more than just two. There can be any number that as you stopped and started, but they're gonna be related to the specific instance, and that instance is gonna be related to the specific session, and that session is gonna be related to that context. Okay, so the recording, as I mentioned before, is completely optional. You don't have to record something if you don't want to, but you can, and you can do it multiple times on the same instance, which is also something that you can do, but it's not the best practice. But if that's what you need, then you can do it. So this is just like this feels just like a pyramid. So like you're going from the bottom, which will be the recording of the instance. Then you have the instance itself. Then the instance is part of the session. The session is part of the context. Now we're gonna talk about the basic context, the basic concepts, which are related to the who. So whenever you want to, there are two things that you need to think about this. So the first one will be the enrollment. This is an enrollment. How do you enroll someone? Well, when you invite people to a session and you just use the GUI for this and you say, hey, I want to invite John Smith as a participant and his email is jsmith at myschool.com, then when you're creating the session on the scheduler, you can add this person as an enrollment. That person then is going to receive an email and that person is going to be enrolled and they will have a specific link. They can join through that specific link. Now, as you can see, whenever you create it, this is a new session and there is a guest link. So let's talk a little bit about that too. So whenever you create this guest link, people who join using this link is gonna be classified as users. Okay, so we have already two concepts from the Who, and those will be the enrollments and the users. Those two are very important to be differentiated. So, for example, here we have that John Smith received an email with the invitation for this meeting at 8 a.m. and that person receives that email and that's only for him. But Andrew Mason, in this example, received also an email. And he said, well, he just received a guest link and it was shared to him Well, he didn't receive an email. Andrew Mason received just a link, and he received it through Slack, and then he shared this link to Maria Lopez. Um, that link can be shared because it is a guest link. That's fine. They can just share it between them, and it's completely fine. And that will be the best way to share information, just between peers. Something very important that I want to jump here right now is that this external username is optional and is something that we use to relate also people from LMS. So, for example, let's say that you have a user, John Smith, on an LMS, and that user has a specific ID that is being used that can be related with Collaborate in order to find that person. Okay, here easily. So now let's continue with the whole example. So Andrew Mason and Maria Lopez are gonna be just users because they receive the email, where they receive just the guest link, and John Smith is an enrollment. Now, what happens is that for some reason John Smith couldn't make it. He didn't attend the meeting, but Andrew Mason and Maria Lopez did attend the meeting. So what happens now is that since they were able to attend the meeting, Andrew Mason and Maria Lopez, they're gonna become, instead of being users, they become attendees. That's the third concept that I want to introduce to you. So the first one will be an enrollment, the second one will be a user, and the third one will be an attendee. Now, this will be the master design that we have created and we have came up with. So this instance have two specific attendees that went to the meeting, and the meeting is within the instance is within a session which was recorded, and the session was took place at 8 a.m. until 9 a.m. and is within a context. The context doesn't have to be a course; it can be anything else. Let's, for example, say that you're a company and you just organize them by date. So if you want to organize by date, you can do it. You can organize it by department. So you can say, hey, no, I want my context will be by department, which marketing is using this session, and I don't know, support is using this other context identifier, and they're gonna use this specific session for their meetings, and they're gonna have instances within those sessions, or maybe they can just use one session in one instance, if that's completely fine as well. But this will be the high level hierarchy of how this works. So as I mentioned, Andrew Mason and Maria Lopez were users; they became attendees. If John Smith, from this example, attended the meeting, he will become as well an attendee. There is no difference there. Um, Now, the instance is within a session, and the session is within a context, and the recording is just for the instance, and we already know about that part. And we also introduced the external username parameter, which is completely optional. This is the way that we relate people. Okay, this is very important. Please do not test in production. Just use check preview. If you don't have check preview, please just make sure to send us an email to developers@blabber.com so we can help you with them. The things that you need to think about is you have the correct assets for it. That's something that I'm gonna double check. And after that, then yeah, I'm gonna provide you your credentials. Something very important to know is that the software level credentials for production, which are just like key, secret, and URL, are not the same as user credentials for production. So you're gonna have a user, password, and role, which is assigned by your login group. Those are not the same. Those are completely different ones. Okay, those are different. You don't use those. We provide you those. We as Blackboard provide you those. So if you want to have access to those credentials, you can always create request them by creating a support ticket, and they're gonna help you out. If you want to have a test environment to play with, you can always write us an email to developers@blabber.com, and I can help you with them. So documentation. You're gonna find everything that you need on docs.blabber.com/collab. There is a small typo here. Sorry about that. Docs.blabber.com/collab. In the future, you're gonna use just this. Docs.blabber.com slash collaborate. Since the site is getting a remake, it's not gonna work just like that. So you have to dive in there. Um, on the email, whenever you want to write us, just please let me know about who you are, just your name and last name. That'll be very much what I need, and your email. That'll be very important. Please just sign the email and let me know which institution or partner do you represent, and what will be the main purpose, what you want to do. What you want to do with the credentials, what's gonna be tested, what are you gonna do with it, and yeah, there is whenever you send me an email, I'm gonna send you back something like this. This is just like a short template that I've came up with, so you're gonna receive something like this. um there are some notes that you need to know before requesting it. You need to know that this is a test environment, which is it is completely empty. There's no way to move information from one environment to another. It is always empty and always will be empty, un- unless you create the stuff. If you need to do something, create it and test with whatever it is you created. If you need to test recordings, create a recording and test with it. And this specific environment has limitations, so not so many people can join to a meeting, for example. You can create a link, but you're not going to be able to meet with a lot of people. It's not going to work. As I mentioned before, there is no GUI, so just make sure that you're going to use uh, a programming language or Postman that you're more comfortable with. I have already created a couple of videos here on YouTube that you can see. You can take a look at them, and those are related to how you're gonna connect to Check Preview using Postman and how you're gonna send your first request and collaborate just using Postman. As I mentioned, docs.blapper.com is gonna be your very first place to go, and down there is the Swagger. That link that is shown there is kind of old. You're gonna see the new one on the comments, well, on the description below. So just make sure to follow that one. Again, this is just like the documentation. And yeah, that'll be pretty much it for the first video. Please just feel free to send me your questions to developers@blapper.com. I'll be more than glad to help you out. And see you in the next video. Bye bye.